Welcome to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Siobhan Gobin. Here are the stories that we're following today, June 26, 2013. From the Caribbean, in Guyana, government minister's son is arrested for allegedly assaulting ex-girlfriend. A call to support the National Health Telethon being held in Grenada July 4th. In Jamaica, anchovy teen is charged in her schoolmate's stabbing death. And also in Guyana, Fly Jamaica readies for New York and Toronto. Details on these headlines and more when we return.
5 million customers use Leica Mobile for affordable international mobile calls, connecting over 2.5 million mobile calls daily, helping our customers stay in touch with their loved ones, whether they be in Asia, Africa, Europe, or the rest of the world. Every 5 seconds, a new Leica Mobile customer joins our growing family, helping you to make affordable international calls across the world. Leica Mobile. Call the world for less.
Welcome back to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Siobhan Gobin. This segment of the news is sponsored by Total Caribbean Network. In Guyana, the son of a government minister on Tuesday surrendered to police and was arrested in connection with allegedly assaulting his ex-girlfriend. Robinson Ben Jr. has been accused by 27-year-old Venetia Sionat of assaulting her during the pre-dawn hours of Sunday at her home in the city. Chief of Criminal Investigations, Deputy Police Commissioner Silal Prasad, said he came in this morning and is with the police at Brickdam. Asked if he has been arrested, Prasad said yes. Sionat, whose right eye was swollen and black and blue and her head tender as a result of severe blows, said she had expected her brother home. On hearing someone knock on the door of her lower flat, she opened and was confronted by Ben. She alleged that the young man forced himself into her home and severely beat her. Sionat, who works with a constitutionally empowered government office, wants Ben to stay away from her. That means that police would have to charge him under the Domestic Violence Act, and the court would ask her if she requires a restraining order against the young man. Speaking with reporters at her home Sunday night, the tearful woman alleged that she has been assaulted at least 10 times in the one-year-old relationship which ended several months ago. She recalled that during December 2012, Ben allegedly beat and kicked her in her abdomen, resulting in a miscarriage. She was due to have a baby today. Robinson Ben Jr. is the son of Transport Minister Robinson Ben. The Florida-based Caribbean American Domestic Violence Awareness Foundation has said that Sionat has been making attempts to extricate herself from an abusive relationship and continuing building her life and career. The CADVA encouraged everyone involved to remain objective to the fact of the alleged claim against Mr. Ben Jr. And I quote, "Treating this case as you would any other domestic violence abuse case under the current judicial laws governing Guyana's legal system. Ms. Sionat is yet another victim falling prey to the hands of an alleged abuser," said the organization in a statement. In Grenada, persons in the diaspora are being invited to support a National Health Telethon being held in Grenada next week on Thursday, July the 4th. Telephone numbers are being provided to accommodate calls from the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. The Health Telethon is an initiative of the Ministry of Health, which has teamed up with Friends of Grenada Healthcare. The objective is to raise funds to pay for important medicine and medical supplies. Persons in the United States can participate by calling telephone number 718-475-6460. Persons in the United Kingdom are asked to call 01144-1206-598-115, while those in Canada are requested to call 514-600-0382. contributors to the health telethon in Guyana asked to make their pledges by calling telephone number 435-2636. The National Health Telethon is on Thursday, July 4th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on national television. Let's all do it for our health sector. In Jamaica, the 14-year-old female student of Anchovy High School, who was allegedly stabbed a schoolmate to death last week, has been charged with murder. She was taken into custody following the stabbing death of Jamila Dawkins during a fight near the St. James School last Wednesday. Police say the two schoolgirls were involved in a fight when a knife was brought into play. Dawkins was stabbed and taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. The arrested teen, who has not been named as she is a minor, will appear in court today. In Guyana, Fly Jamaica is expected to begin flying from Guyana to New York and Toronto in the coming weeks, according to Tourism Minister Irfan Ali. Ali said top airline executives advised him of their decision at a tourism exposition held recently in Toronto. And I quote, "Fly Jamaica has indicated to us at the Toronto Trade and Tourism Expo that by the end of July they would start flying to New York, and by mid-August they will commence operations to Toronto," he told reporters. Guyanese authorities said Fly Jamaica first has to get approval from the United States and Canada before they could begin flying to and from Guyana. In addition, the airline first has to finalize the lodging of a bond to help refund passengers should the carrier cease operations there. Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Zulfikar Mohammed, said his agency would have to ask his Trinidad and Tobago counterpart agency to provide flight operators specifications to Air Jamaica because that country does not have an inspector to perform such a task. American and Canadian authorities will also have to grant approvals to Fly Jamaica before the carrier can begin serving the Toronto and New York routes to and from Georgetown. The Guyana government earlier this month granted approval to the carrier to offer scheduled services among the three ports. You are watching Caribbean Affiliate News. Stay tuned.
Million customers use Leica Mobile for affordable international mobile calls, connecting over 2.5 million mobile calls daily, helping our customers stay in touch with their loved ones, whether they be in Asia, Africa, Europe, or the rest of the world. Every 5 seconds, a new Leica Mobile customer joins our growing family, helping you to make affordable international calls across the world. Leica Mobile. Call the world for less.
I can't believe your mom let you take your car out. This is awesome.
It's time to grow up.
You're crazy.
Little wildflower.
Go faster. Stop.
It'll all be alright.
I raised my son to be careful,
Hey, sweetie. Hey, Mom.
but just to be safe,
So don't you worry.
I got a Subaru.
Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Coleman Subaru, 1710 North Alden Avenue, Ewing, New Jersey, or colemansubaru.com.
Since we announced Sign and Drive with zero out-of-pocket and low monthly payments, cars been flying out of Bronx Honda at a record pace. Whoa! New Accord with zero out-of-pocket for $249 a month, or new Civics just $199 per month, or save thousands with 0% financing. You never had to leave the Bronx to get the best price on the Honda. Bronx Honda guarantees the lowest price in the Bronx. Bronx Honda, East Tremont Avenue. Visit BronxHonda.com.
Stop the music! It's week 2 of our used car blowout month, and this week it's guaranteed credit approval. If we can't show you how to get approved, that car is on us. Log on now. GrecoAuto.com.
Welcome back to Cannes. This segment is sponsored by TravelSpan Vacations. Haiti is said to receive $35.5 million in grant funding for a program aimed at improving drinking water services in Port-au-Prince. The grant was approved by the Inter-American Development Bank, which launched the Water Initiative in 2010 in partnership with the Spanish Fund for Cooperation in Water and Sanitation in Latin America and the Caribbean. Haiti's DINEPA Water and Sanitation Agency will carry out the program along with the Port-au-Prince utility, which serves around 3 million people in the capital. Since the launch, the CTERMPP has doubled the amount of time it distributes water, from 13 hours to 26 hours a week. The expanded phase of the program will work on reducing losses caused by leaks, clandestine connections, and unpaid bills, as well as to improving revenue in order to cover operational expenses, according to the IDB statement. The IDB and Spain's government are financing around $180 million in water projects in Port-au-Prince. In the Bahamas, Anglican Archdeacon Keith Cartwright said on Sunday night the government, law enforcement agencies, the judiciary, and the church are hopelessly paralyzed in the fight against crime as Bahamians are being mercilessly gunned down like dogs. And I quote, "We all seem to be aimlessly floating and meandering in this river of blood," said Cartwright in his sermon for the Anglican Church's patronal festival at Christ Church Cathedral. He says, "We seem to be drowning in this well of violence and crime." Cartwright said there is a complete disregard for the sanctity of human life in the Bahamas. He says human beings, God's sacred creation, are being mercilessly gunned down like dogs as our streets and neighborhoods have become rivers of blood. He says even elderly grandmothers are being robbed and slaughtered for mere insignificant material possessions. Cartwright said there can be no substitute for Christian values, and no number of police cars, police officers, magistrates, or prison cells can stem the tide of blood. He goes on to say our situation is a national crisis and we need urgent and focused attention to these challenges, he says. The blame game has to stop. Crime is not a PLP problem. It is not an FNM problem. It is our problem. He says a national task force on crime is needed with all major stakeholders to properly coordinate all our efforts in the fight against crime and violence. Cartwright said we need to take back our communities. What is the church doing, he says? There are churches on every corner, but the church is sadly lacking in our communities. Cartwright said the country needs action, not talk. In May, Bahamas Christian Council President Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson admitted that the church had dropped the ball in the fight against crime and pledged to mount a more sustained assault against criminality. According to figures provided by Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage in the House of Assembly last week, crime throughout the country was down by 10% between January 1st and June 11th, 2013. Nottage said while crime is trending downwards, the government remains concerned. He said he has directed the Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force to deploy up to 150 officers to assist the police force in fighting crime. In Turks and Caicos, in the little more than 6 months since the return of elected ministerial government in the Turks and Caicos Islands, following a 3-year period of direct rule imposed by Britain as a result of widespread government corruption, the issue of increased taxation to pay for the misdeeds of the former elected government has been a subject of much debate locally. Lillian Misek, the former chair of the Consultative Forum during the British interim government and now one of the governor's appointed members of the House of Assembly, recently weighed in on this issue. In a statement, she says, Misek pointed out, as chair of the Consultative Forum, she served as the highest UK-appointed TC Islander during most of the 3 years of direct rule. This is why she said she felt a special duty to give the newly elected government a grace period before issuing any public statement on its handling of public affairs. And I quote, "Even now, the only reason I am doing so is that a public discourse on 2 issues, namely taxes and consultants, has reached such a crescendo that my silence was becoming like a proverbial elephant in the room. After all, as chair, I figured rather prominently in setting the table for discourse in both respects," Misek said. As the governor's appointed member of parliament, Misek said her job is not to support or oppose the ruling Progressive National Party. Rather, it is to help the PNP enact legislation for the general welfare of the people. She says, and I quote, "Unfortunately, I do not know anybody who thinks this government imposing numerous and increasingly onerous tax burdens upon us is in our general welfare. I shall leave it to the PNP to explain the master plan behind a tax regime that seems so pervasive and boundless. One can be forgiven fears that this government will soon be taxing us on the air we breathe," she says. Referring to the proposed value-added tax, the implementation of which was later shelved, Misek said that the time has come to compel the PNP to explain how the TCI is going to be better off paying its basket case of taxes, which evidently still has room for more, instead of paying one VAT, which, though passed by the forum during the interim administration, the PNP and the opposition People's Democratic Movement wasted little time joining forces to forestall implementation. Misek pointed out that the uncertainty this causes and yet portends for businesses as well as ordinary citizens is simply unattainable. U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security investigations in Puerto Rico led an investigation that has resulted in the arrest of 5 individuals leading 3 companies indicted for 3 counts of conspiracy to smuggle goods into the United States and conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to an indictment, the defendants knowingly and willfully combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed with each other to smuggle and clandestinely introduce or attempt to introduce merchandise imported from China, to wit, aluminum, by passing false and fraudulent invoices and documents through a CBP with the intent to defraud the United States of approximately $26.7 million in lawful anti-dumping and countervailing duties accruing upon said merchandise. The CBP is responsible for enforcing the anti-dumping and countervailing duties law and collecting the AD and the CVD duties assessed against applicable imports. Importers who willfully circumvent the provisions of that law through illegal transshipment, undervaluation, or misclassification of merchandise in order to avoid paying these duties will be identified and investigated, said Marcelino Borges, Director of Field Operations for Puerto Rico and the USVI. He says our officers and trade experts remain vigilant to detect these violators and enforce all trade-related laws. The HSI is responsible for investigating importers who evade the payment on imported merchandise. The ADD and CVD cases are long-term transnational investigations that require significant coordination between domestic and international offices and with our foreign law enforcement counterparts. You are watching Caribbean Affiliate News. Stay tuned.
Since we announced Sign and Drive with 0 out of pocket and low monthly payments, cars been flying out of Bronx Honda at a record pace. Whoa! New Accord with 0 out of pocket for $249 a month, or new Civics just $199 per month, or save thousands with 0% financing. You never had to leave the Bronx to get the best price on the Honda. Bronx Honda guarantees the lowest price in the Bronx. Bronx Honda, East Tremont Avenue. Visit BronxHonda.com.
Stop the music! It's week 2 of our used car blowout month, and this week it's guaranteed credit approval. If we can't show you how to get approved, that car is on us. Log on now, GrecoAuto.com.